Ah. Hello, guys.
Hello, everyone.
So we're just gonna wait a little longer before we start. I think there's gonna be a couple people still coming in. It's 6:59, so we can wait a minute or two. That's cool. So hope everybody's doing okay. So I'm gonna mute everybody for now. If you have questions, you can throw them into the chat. That's fine. I am Nicole. I work at the library. I will have my mic on, so hopefully everybody can hear me. Oh, got more people. Oh, okay. All right, all right. Okay, we got some stuff going on. Okay. Alrighty. Well, admit. Okay. So yeah, so we can wait a minute before we start, just in case, in case you're stragglers. I'm a straggler. It happens, so I sympathize. It's cool. But yeah, again, so I will have the chat open. I'll be monitoring the chat. As Joe is kind of, giving a lesson, he might not necessarily be able to look at the chat. So I'll kind of have to relay questions or comments or concerns or anything over to him. Sean, hey. So yeah, so just because you're muted doesn't mean you can't ask questions. Like I said, drop them in the chat. I'll have it open constantly. We might open it at the end for questions. We'll kind of see how it goes. It's the first time we're doing this. I know it's not, your typical art class, unfortunately, because of current circumstances. So maybe by the time we reopen and start doing stuff in person, we can do something similar. But for now we make do. And for now, you get to hang out in your own house. You don't have to drive anywhere. That's cool, be in your pajamas and just hang out with us for a while. So yeah, so let's see. I don't have anybody in the waiting room right now. That's okay.
Once you start, can people join after, or like once
Yeah. I can just like boop, let them in, which is fine. Okay. Okay. All right. So hello, good evening. Hope everybody's having a nice Thursday. My name's Nicole. I work at the main library. Some of you may recognize me. I'm one of our teen librarians, so I do all the teen programs, teen collection development, summer reading, stuff like that. Usually at the reference desk or just running around doing other stuff. I have a little bit of an arts background, but am not really equipped to teach a class. So I pulled in one of my friends, and his name is Joe Ruff, R-U-F-F. And he went to the Kubert School in Dover, New Jersey. Yeah, it's like kind of out there. He's been drawing professionally for a while. He does art, he does music. He's currently working on a prequel comic for a horror movie property, which is cool. He does album art, he does band art, he does all sorts of stuff for a lot of local music. He's very involved in, sort of like the local music / art scene. Oh, I should put my phone on mute. I'm sorry. There we go. It's on mute now. And I thought, who better to teach a class? So Joe's gonna give his own introduction. He's gonna then not have his camera on, but since he works primarily on an iPad, he's gonna share his screen with all of us. So he won't be able to see him, but you'll be able to see his screen, and he'll be able to kind of run everything through that way. So you may not be able to see him, but you'll be able to see everything he does, kind of at the same time. All right. How are we doing, Joe Ruff?
Good. All right. So hello, my name's Joe. I'll be taking care of everybody today. It's my server intro taking over. But we're going to learn how to draw some very basic things today. Trying to start at the very, very beginning. So no matter, if you don't know anything, you can start today. Drawing is incredibly rewarding, and I highly recommend everybody try it at least once. It's one of those things you can work on every single day for the rest of your life, and you'll most likely not be as good as the greatest artists of all time. Like, there's no ceiling to how good you can get. You can work at it and work at it and work at it and work at it, and that's what makes it a great hobby and something that you'll never get tired of, because you can always improve. So I'll switch over to the screen soon, and you'll just be looking at what my iPad is looking at. While you're all using a pen or a pencil and paper, I will be using technology, just because it's easier to do a thing like this, because you can see exactly what I'm working on. And honestly, these days I do all the work I do on my iPad with this Apple Pencil. A lot of people are turning to digital these days, and it's just, when you're doing like work for hire stuff for other people, it's invaluable being able, the level to which you can edit things on a computer. But anyway, I'll switch over to a second. If you hear some noise in the future, Judy, baby, but we're gonna hope she stays asleep.
She likes to yell when she wakes up, apparently.
So. And when she gets bored, and when she's hungry, and when she just ate. So we're gonna share the screen. Okay. You've all disappeared, but I trust that you're all still there. We'll get ahead of ourselves. So while we're going to be talking about just basic pencil illustration today, my main focus is comic book art. The school I went to, the Joe Kubert School, is different than most schools or most art schools, because it's not a degree program, it's a certificate program. So you don't have a degree when you're done, but it's only 3 years, and it's only focused on comic book art. It's not as broad as some other schools. They even got rid of the animation program recently, I think. So now it's just comic book art. So I had 3 years of very intense comic lessons, and I draw comics every day. But anyway, this is our fancy title page. Oh, the program what's going on here? The program I'm drawing in is called Clip Studio Paint. Why is this so not working?
Uh-oh.
You see this, right? It's not turning visible.
Don't worry, we're all recording it too, so.
That's right. I can close the program real quick.
This did just work like 10 minutes ago when we ran through it again, I promise. That's really weird. Clip Studio Paint is a great program, recommended.
It is.
In spite of this. It's very powerful. Some of the stuff that you see, like, you're like, oh my God, is that like a traditional painting? And they're like, nope, Clip Studio Paint.
Here we go.
It's pretty awesome.
So anyway, there's all types of digital brushes in here, and digital pencils and stuff that exists to mimic tools that people use in real life. The one thing I worry about students these days is everybody's learning on the digital stuff, and they're not even going to remember what these tools are mimicking. So anybody who's learning to draw should learn with a real pencil. I would absolutely discourage anybody from learning on an iPad. It's awful convenient, but you're going to want to know what a real brush does. You're going to want to know what a real pencil does, what a real eraser feels like. There's different kinds of erasers. There's kneaded erasers, those Saki erasers. You should get to experience all that before you enter the cold world of modern digital art. Anyway, we can look at some pictures of my art, so I know a little bit what I'm talking about. This was a few sample pages I did recently for this online search thing. I got some jobs, but it's always good to have more jobs. It's a cowboy story. So it's a good example of backgrounds, of shading, of characters, of lighting for sure. Especially with comics, as many strong light sources as you can have, the better. So that's one page. This is another page. People are getting shot at, and then they're getting angry, and then they're running outside with an homage to Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. This is a poster I did. Some fan art for The Lighthouse, which is a really, I thought, excellent, fantastic movie. Zoom in and see some details. Look in on Willem Dafoe's beautiful face.
And these are things you're doing completely on the iPad?
Yeah, this is all completely digital, even though, there's all types of gritty textures and stuff you can get. That makes I like digital art, but I don't like my art to look digital. So whatever I can do to make it look real, that's something I prefer. So what is observational drawing? It is looking at things that exist in real life and then translating it into a two-dimensional drawing. Like that famous painting, "This is not a pipe." You're not making a real mug. You're interpreting what a mug looks like to your eyes with a pencil. So the best thing you can do when you're drawing is like looking at things in real life. That's what most art classes would have you do. Something simple like this, like a mug or a bottle of wine or some fruit, something that will stay put, that you can look at in real life. Because you can turn your head and see different angles of it. It's not as flat as like looking at a photo. But for our purposes today, we're going to look at some photos and pretend they're real. A couple really, really basic things to know about drawing is that whatever you're trying to draw is going to be made up of a few basic shapes. Basic shapes make up everything you see in life. There's cubes, there's cylinders, there's spheres, there's pyramids, there's cones. And if you look, especially through backgrounds and buildings, you'll see.
That clock tower right there on the left, that's all squares. That's like a bunch of boxes.
Yeah, you see a circle there, you see a box there, you see some colors so you can see. You got like a cylinder shape here, you got a cone up here. The more you look at, and then most buildings are just squares and squares and squares.
What about like stuff like people that looks like baby? It's just some blobs. Like, can you break those down?
Yes, you can. The foundations of drawing is all about breaking complicated shapes into simple shapes. So even though you've got, what looks like a complicated head here, there's still a circle at the center of it. We won't have to get too much into construction lines right now.
Just wondering,
But anyway, so you've got your basic shapes. Then you have to think about a light source. Where's the light coming from? Different light sources can be the sun, it can be a flashlight, it can be a light in a room. There can be multiple light sources. There can be things lighting up, two different things lighting up an object. I got some pictures here. This is the same exact drawing, just a picture of a face, but with all different light sources. And depending on where, so if I have here, light makes you feel feelings, because it does. This drawing, you can't see where my, we're talking about this drawing here, makes you feel a certain way that's a little bit different than this one here makes you feel. This one over here is a bit more serious looking, or this one here is a bit more relaxed because the lighting's different. And then this one over here looks more scary, more unsettling because it's completely in shadow. So the way the shadows you use are going to affect the way people feel about the thing you're drawing. Uh,
Could you say
this
that
is,
like your shadows fall opposite to where your light is coming from, basically?
yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Here we've got this great, very dramatically lit picture of Superman, but it's, yes, Henry Cavill is very handsome and very muscly, but what makes this image powerful also is the lighting, that strong light coming from okay. That strong light coming from up top is what makes him feel important, or something about lighting from above that feels very regal's the word, but mythic. This is a great example of lighting because there's all kinds of stuff going on in this Aladdin movie poster. If you look at the genie, he's got okay. If you look at the genie, he's got blue light coming from this way and orange light coming from this way. If you look at Jasmine, she's got rim lighting. That's what we call lighting from behind. So it's going all the way around her. So you can see it on her cheekbone here. You can see it on her cheekbone there. If you look at Aladdin, he's got light coming from the lamp up at his face and around behind. So multiple light sources will always make, a drawing more interesting to look at. As you get more advanced in a drawing, you do have to think about perspective. That is, at what direction are you looking at something? So we've got our mug here that we're looking up at it. So you see the underside, you see the belly of the thing. And then if you're looking down at something, you see the top of it. The first thing you'll learn about drawing is like, no matter what you're drawing, you need to think about the horizon line. If you think about if you're in the middle of the desert and you're looking out into the distance, the horizon line, what's this thing? The horizon line is where the sky meets the ground. So depending on where the horizon line is, if the horizon line is above your object, that means you're looking down on it. And if the horizon line is below the thing you're trying to draw, that means you're looking up at it. And if say your mug was right in the middle of the horizon line, well, then you'd be looking straight at it and there'd be no curves. I have some picture examples of that here I took on my backyard this morning.
Yeah, my plants are not doing too well. Forgive
But
me.
they're still cute holders. So you have two objects that are exactly the same size. But one thing to consider is, are they right next to each other, or is one closer? Because if one of the objects is closer, then it's going to appear bigger. If one of the objects is further away, it's going to appear smaller, even though, as we can see in this first picture, they are both the same size. If you're looking down at something, again, showing that cylinder shape, we're looking down at something, if you're looking at a cylinder shape looking down, the curves bend this way. And if you're looking up at something that's curved, the curves bend upwards. But as we get close to the horizon line, which is about, here, all of a sudden the lines get straight. And if it were to keep going down lower, the lines would start to curve this way. So that's enough. Here's some more.
Yeah. So the thing about perspective and horizon lines is that like it gets really, really complicated. Kind of the more you learn about it, and the more complicated your drawing gets. Like especially if you're doing like a cityscape or like even just multiple buildings or like a funky cool like angle of like a comic book page or a poster or something. It gets really, really, really complicated. So we're keeping it like very basic. I mean I'm not good at it, but hopefully you guys will get it.
All right, so I'm going to draw this mug. But you don't start off just with all the shadows. There's stages you have to pay attention to when you're doing a drawing. Stages that will make it easier. So the very first step is you have to sketch it out. That means you're not thinking about the final drawing. You're going as loose as you want, just trying to get a feel for the overall shape. And at this early stage, it's important to draw through the objects, almost like you're looking at something through X-ray vision, because you want to know exactly where. So you're drawing a table over here. You want to know exactly where it comes out on this side. So to make that clear, you just draw through the whole cup, and then you can erase the line later. So once you have, here we have some examples of, these are very detailed of drawings of what character from Moana is it?
Moana from Moana.
Moana from Moana. So even though this drawing is incredibly clean at the end, this is how the artist started out, incredibly sketchy. So when you're starting a drawing, it's okay to be as loose and as sketchy as you like, because you can always erase when it comes time to clean up. And your drawing is going to have more life, and it's going to feel more alive if it needs that sketchy energy. So once you have your sketch, it's time to commit. Then you have to choose your lines. So while you start off with a sketchy drawing, then you have to go in with your eraser and start cleaning it up and deciding exactly, no, this is going to be the line for the handle. This is going to be the line for the top of the rim of the mug. This is going to be the line for the table. And then once you've got your lines, then it's time for shading. And a really fun exercise to do just to practice your shading is to not even think about a picture. Just if you have a really dull pencil, it works way better with dull pencils than with sharp pencils. You can just go left to right. Oh, let me get my big pencil. You can just go left to right and make little gradients to just try to get as dark as you can to as light as you can, and try to make it as smooth as possible. When you're first starting out, you should fill just pages and pages of gradient practice. It's very hard to get a completely smooth dark to light. All right.
I have a question. So when you're drawing through like that, does that mean, your first like kind of sketch should be like, should you hold the pencil a little lighter? Is that going to make your life easier, or?
Yes, whatever you can do to go lightly at first. Though some artists just never learn that skill. I never got good at drawing particularly. Well, now I'm better, but when I was younger, I was messy. Jim Lee is an incredibly messy penciler. So really, it's just like, it's better to go lightly because it's easier to erase, but you can always put a piece of tracing paper over your rough drawing and then do a cleaner one. So really, it's just the most important thing I would say is to just like have an energy to your drawing. But anyway, let's start drawing. So we've got our picture up here. We're going to zoom in on this. I'm just going to leave the screen alone, even though usually when I'm drawing, I'm moving it all over the place. I can do that. I'm going to do that. Get my pencil. Okay. Okay, so I'm just going to leave this on the screen, and everybody with your pencil just try to draw the mug. And I'll do it myself at the same time, so you can watch me, but also, you don't have to watch me the whole time. I want you to try it. One thing I always think about when I'm drawing something like right from a picture is like, where's the top of the object? Where's the bottom of the object? And try to make sure it's the same. Oh, I've got a line that goes like this. Line that goes like this.
I'm gonna hear myself.
I just have to have it, but I always tend to draw things bigger than they actually are in the picture. It's just my mind.
Sometimes you see pictures where people draw like their loose drawing in like blue lines, and then maybe they add like dark black pencil afterwards. What's that about?
Well, it's really something you only see animators and comic book artists do. Not really something you're ever going to see in the world of painting and fine art. But yeah, I much prefer to do all my preliminary drawings with a blue pencil because it's just easier to, once you start, I work in ink, and once you start going over a blue pencil drawing in black ink, the blue lines kind of just disappear.
Is it true that those blue lines like also don't photocopy? Because I've heard that.
Yes, they don't photocopy for all the people still using copying machines.
Listen, the Disney Renaissance was based on Xerox drawings, so.
Okay, so I've got my very loose drawing here. It's probably still pretty neat compared to some artists. Some people start incredibly sketchy, and I'm also using a really fat pencil just because I think it's good for shading. I could be using the pencil I've got on here is basically imitating almost like a charcoal pencil. If I wanted to use something more like a regular pencil, I've got one of those also. Sometimes you can use a really big, there's different types of lead also. There's, I don't know if there's the 2H and H and HB, but also, a lot of people start with a 2H lead and then go over it with HB lead because it's darker. Obviously, let me know if anybody ever has any questions.
I'm looking in the chat. I don't see anything just yet.
Well, then I must be making perfect sense.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So now I'm going with my eraser and cleaning up the sketchy lines. Digital eraser is a lot easier because there's no shavings.
Can you maybe talk a little bit more about like light sources and how they kind of like dictate where your shadows are? Like especially on something that's curved like this?
Well, we're getting to, that's about to be a point of concern right now. So where is the light coming from in this picture? The left is the answer. I assume people were shouting that out. So since this is a curved object, you can see the light kind of curves around it, or bends around the glass because it's a cylinder shape. So knowing the light's coming from this way, that means this side is going to be, the side on the left is going to be light and the side on the right is going to be dark. When it comes to shading, it's easier to use a big pencil. I'm going to shrink this screen a little bit just because it's actually a bigger size than I'm used to drawing.
And now, so not everything that's ever been drawn, obviously, is taken from life. So now, professional artists, we can assume, then take a lot of reference pictures and work from there.
Yeah, you should never make anything up completely. I don't want to say never, but there's no reason to not look at a picture of something first and then embellish it and change it, and then let your imagination take over. But before you let your imagination take over with something, you should always look at a real object. Photo reference is invaluable to, no matter what I'm drawing, I'm always going to find a picture of it first. There's so many things in life that you think you know what they look like. Like, I think I know what a chair looks like, but like, do you really know what a chair looks like? Do you know exactly how many
Legs?
bars are in the back? Do you know at what point the legs connect? Do you know what the stitching on the cushion looks like? There's so many things so many details you realize you didn't know once you look at a picture of something.
And my art history brain is gonna hop in too and just say Norman Rockwell. We all know Norman Rockwell. We've all seen his paintings. He took extensive photographs of anything he painted. You know, he had models he used. He would put them into costumes. He would take like a lot of photographs. And yeah, it was, you know, he'll have this figure kind of staying there. They're not in the full environment, but he at least would take photographs to understand, like, oh, that's exactly how I want her clothes to move, or, you know, their hand is angled exactly like this. And it's kind of crazy. I'm pretty sure there's a book of like just his photo work, because honestly, it was like just as extensive as his paintings. Like for every painting he made, there's at least 50 photographs that he took just in preparation. So, you know, if you're like, oh man, I don't know what this looks like, take a picture and then draw it. Everybody's doing it. You're Rockwell, greatest graphic of our time, man.
What made this a really good drawing, or a really good picture, I thought, for this class, was the light on dark. So the white of the mug against the really dark background. That's what makes the mug pop.
That's called contrast. I got pencil sharpener. That's good.
So one thing, my drawing has this line up. Drawing has this line up here that I can see does not exist in the real drawing. So I should go in and take that out.
So
when you're drawing a cartoon, you know, in comics like I do, there's a lot of hard lines that don't exist in real life. With this painting, we're trying to imitate a more realistic style.
so there isn't really a line there. It's just that the shadow
Yeah, the
against
shadow.
that part is creating a line.
Yeah.
Okay. That makes sense.
And we can even see, yeah, let me get, if we come in here, we can see a white line from this rim that kind of goes across. Little details like that, that's going to make your drawing look real. Paying attention to little stuff like that. All right, now we got to think about the table. It's not white, it's gray, but it's not as dark as the background. And you can even see right here, there's a reflection in the counter from the mug. So that's so while the counter on left here is gray, it gets a little bit lighter right under the mug. Another little detail to think about. And then, of course, we have this big cast shadow at the bottom right of the drawing, or of the picture. Because light doesn't only create shadows on objects, it casts shadows onto the ground or the counter or the surface or wherever the object placed on, resting on. Cast shadows are so important in making your drawing look real, making it look like it's actually existing in its environment. You know, there's shadows all over you. You cast a shadow everywhere you go at different times of the day. You know, not something we always think about. But it is important. All right, see, this is one part I wish we could see what people are doing, because I'd like to know how close everybody is to
Let me take it.
finishing. I don't want to move on if people are still looking at stuff. I don't like this hard line here.
Okay, so let me ask you, Bob Ross, thoughts?
I want to buy a mug. It's on Urban Outfitters. It's $14, but it changes colors. It's a Bob Ross mug, and it's got his face, and it's all black. But then once you put warm coffee in it, it heats up, and you can see a painting.
I like it.
But yeah, Bob Ross is tremendous. Everything he ever painted, he painted in 45 minutes.
It's crazy, man. Anyone's interested in Bob
Tons
Ross,
of great lessons and Bob Ross videos on YouTube.
Oh, they're all on YouTube. It's great. If anyone is looking for like some pandemic viewing that's really relaxing, Bob Ross. Just saying. The Bob Ross dream is alive and well.
So how should we know if everybody's ready to move on?
Let's see. So everybody I see who's got their camera on is still kind of going. That's okay.
Okay.
So we can the chat. Okay. So yeah, we can give it a minute.
I can make my shadows better.
Okay.
I can see I got kind of lazy with this handle because it doesn't really look exactly like the picture. But also, you don't always have to draw things exactly like the picture. A bit of your personality is going to come out in every single thing you draw, whether you realize it or not. One thing I've always said is like your art style is as unique as your face. I can look at a drawing from an artist I like and not be told it's by them, but immediately know they were the one that drew it, because
looking good, Will.
A person's art style is so recognizable.
Nice. Let's see. Everyone else wants to show theirs off, bringing it to the camera. That's cool. I can see them.
I wish I could. Yeah, I wish there was a way to.
Oh,
I can't.
man.
It's not like a split screen.
Very nice, Varsha. Hershey. Well done.
Did you say Sean was here? Our Sean?
Yeah, our buddy Sean is here somewhere. He
Hey,
doesn't have
Sean.
his camera on. That's okay. Just shout out to Sean. I think Milton was also here briefly, maybe. Oh, Haley's here. Hey guys, Milton, Haley.
They know how to draw a mug.
Sam, looking good.
We have lots of artistic friends in this chat.
Yes. I'm very fortunate. We know a lot of talented people. Looking good, guys. Oh yeah, Sean just said hey in the chat. Hey, Sean. Hope you're doing cool. Yeah, and you know, if you make friends and who have similar interests than you, and you can just like host nights where you guys hang out and like draw together or whatever it is you're sharing interest in. Would recommend. Just saying. Yeah, I think everybody's pretty good. Oh, hello, Milton. Sending a virtually drawn hug to you too. But yeah, all right. So I think everybody's got another minute, and then we can move on to because you have another one too, right?
Yeah, two more. We're not just like for two more.
All
What should we
right.
do? Should we do the duck? Should we do the plant?
I am partial to the duck. You can do both. I don't know. And you can. I mean,
I practiced that plant like 3 times just because the first time I drew it, it didn't look so good. I was like, oh no, I can't. I'm the teacher. I can't not know how to draw this plant.
you can do the
But I
plant.
got it. Trust me, I got it, guys. By the end, I'll show you.
You can do whatever you want. I mean, you still have time, so.
Sometimes I remark on, I think it's funny how bad a drawing, how bad most drawings look at the beginning compared to how good they can look at the end.
Oh yeah.
So basically, it's only a bad drawing if you stop.
Hey. That was very Bob Ross, I must say. But yeah, so I mean, you have time to do both, I think. So by all means.
Okay, I don't know if it was like a hard stop. We got 20
No,
minutes.
no, no, no. Nah, you good.
Okay, so just tell me when to
Whatever.
move on. Okay. All right. And just to show you some further stages, this is a piece of Daredevil I was drawing earlier. So, very, very sketchy. Basically started with just a pencil drawing. And then once I was happy with the figure, I drew it at full opacity, but since this is a computer, I was able to lower the opacity and then go a layer above it. And with like a black marker, really choose where all of my lines are. And then once you've chosen where all your lines are, that's the fun part. You can start adding shadows. So I was still doodling this earlier, but I got to fix his legs.
Legs are hard.
I was also being lazy with this, not looking at any reference. And there are so many pictures of gymnasts and stuff you can find on the internet. So there's really no excuse not to look at reference. So anyway, okay, let's do the duck.
Duck.
But just so everyone can see, I did draw this plant, and I do think it looked pretty good at the end.
It's a snake plant.
Yeah.
I have killed one of them so far.
But when you're drawing something, like you want something that's worth mentioning is like, the leaves I drew are not exactly like the leaves on the picture. They're different. Or they're a bit bigger. They're a bit more dramatic, twisting a bit more. It's okay to embellish the drawings. You don't have to draw them exactly like they are. And if you can make an image look more exciting, go for it. Okay.
Wait, can you talk about those shapes on the leaves? The organic shapes?
Well, we can talk about shapes with the duck.
Okay, let's talk about the duck.
So we were talking about our basic shapes, our squares, our circles, our spheres, our cylinders, our cones, and these exist all over the place. So it might not look like there's basic shapes involved with this duck right now, but I'm telling you there are. Because here in the center, oh no, we gotta go above it. There's still a circle for his head. There's basically a triangle for his beak. There's another cylinder basically for his neck. And these shapes all connect to make a duck.
Duck shapes. Who knew?
So it's important to not just see pictures, as flat things. We are trying to imitate life, and life exists in 3 dimensions. Life has shadows, life has form, life has weight. And these are all things that we're trying to communicate with our drawing. So everybody can start drawing this duck. I'll draw the duck also. one also very, very, very important thing with drawing that I've come up against in some classes I've taught is that it's so important, and I'm guilty of this, but it's so important not to compare yourself to other artists, especially if you're starting out. But even if you're a pro, it's just everyone is on their own artistic journey. If there's somewhere you want to get to, you'll get there when you get there. You can spend so much time wishing and wishing and wishing you were better, but and miss out on the fun of drawing. And especially if you're starting out, it's gonna take some time. That 10,000 hours thing is real.
What's the 10,000 hours thing?
That's how long it takes to get good at basically anything.
That's a lot of hours.
Mm-hmm. But nobody who's good at anything didn't spend that much time. As you get better and better, and people see your art and they're so impressed by it, and they will be. Once they're so impressed by it, they're always going to say the same thing. They're always going to say, "Oh, you are so talented." And maybe you are, but that doesn't mean you didn't work really hard to get there. And nobody who's good ever got there by not working hard. So there's a lot of, I'm at a point now where I basically got my rough drawing. Let me see, we're looking down, we're looking down at this duck. So even though he's got like a straight line around his neck, we're going to see it as a curve. And that lets you know you're looking down at it. But there's a lot of shading going on. So there's a lot of shadow because he's got different colored feathers, as well as, the sun's hitting him in different ways. So the darker feathers themselves are going to be darker, but also you have to think about where the light is coming from. Light's basically coming directly from above, looks like, kind of this way. So anybody who has an iPad, there's a feature that you double tap and you get the eraser. I feel like that works 50% of the time. 50% of the time it doesn't work.
But what if you're tapping because you're drawing?
Well, no, you tap your finger on the
Oh, all right, just kidding. Never mind, guys. I don't
pencil.
I don't use an iPad, and any patron who comes up to me asking for help with an iPad can also attest to that, because I always have to go, hey, who here knows how to use an iPad? There we go.
One thing I'm going to think about now is you can see the little feathers in his or her neck. Someone can correct me on the foliage of mallards.
Do you guys know this is a male duck? He's all shiny and impressing the ladies.
But anyway, the feathers are all going down like that. You can see on his neck. So you can imitate that with your pencil marks. The feathers are bending this way over his head. So it's important when you're drawing an animal to think, in what direction are all the feathers going? In what direction is feels like a dog, in what direction is all the fur going? It was Judy, baby. She's got all kinds of fur. I was thinking about drawing Judy, but she's basically a whole bunch of black hair, so it's not as good for learning.
She's pretty cute, though. Good duck. Very handsome duck. He's sure to get the ladies. The duck ladies. Oh, that's the thing also, I like this example of the duck because, animals basically are just a bunch of shapes, put together in weird ways. Like if you're trying to draw like a tiger, its head is like a big circle and then its mouth is like sort of like squares and it's boxy, and like once you kind of look at it and go like, oh my god, it's just shapes. Once you kind of block them out, it, you know, your brain figures out like, oh, I understand how to construct this. I can kind of draw it a lot better.
One thing that's worth mentioning that I've noticed with young artists is that the eraser is just as important as the pencil. So don't be afraid to use it. You know, you got to pick out your, sometimes you make your dark shapes with the pencil, but then you got to make your lighter shapes with the eraser. The eraser is an art tool, same as the pencil is.
So you'd be taking some of that dark away?
Yeah.
Okay.
So if you have like you have a section that's like, you know, you already penciled in, but you want to go back in and add some highlights over it, well, you can do that with your eraser. You can just erase splotches on top. This is digital, but you know, an eraser will behave something like this. I don't love that particular example, but use your eraser. It's not just for erasing. Well, it is actually. It's actually only for erasing. There's actually not even one more use for it.
Oh, really? Because when I used to teach art, I'm pretty sure they were just used to be flung around the room at students. They would just, we used to have this big bucket of erasers, and that thing would not last more than like a week because the boys would just take them and throw them at each other. I don't know why. Nothing but erasers. It's really weird.
Oh, I had a whole, I turned mine into action figures.
Your erasers?
Yeah, I had a whole, not whole, but I had like with Post-it notes, I made what looked like a suit and tie outfit. And then I had a superhero outfit that would go, that you could take off and put on instead. So we had like a mask that went on top, and then we had like a costume that went under it. So it was complete. Sorry.
You sound muffled.
I sound muffled.
No, you don't. You're good.
I think my thumb was resting somewhere.
Ah, that makes sense.
Yeah, I used to make superhero costumes for my eraser.
There you go. So erasers have two uses, and that's erasing and being superhero action figures.
Yeah. So I've been using a very thick pencil here, but I'm gonna get my smaller, sharper pencil here because I can go in with more detail with this. You know, go right over on top. The big pencil is good for, you know, big broad shapes, but if you want to do more detail, then you should probably sharpen your pencil. But a lot of people are out there right now drawing with two sharp pencils. You know, you don't got to sharpen. When I think I liked sharpening pencils more than I liked drawing. So everything you draw, you want to do with a sharp pencil. But honestly, there's not a lot of hard lines that exist in life.
It's a solid duck.
Yeah, I didn't practice it barely. When it comes to detail, you can go on and on and on and on and on. My teacher once asked us in art school, how do you know when a drawing's done? And my classmate, Rob Maroney, had the greatest answer. He said, a drawing is done the second before you mess it up. Which can absolutely happen if you keep going and going on something. Sometimes you have to just say, That is it, Mr. Duck. That's what you look like.
Very handsome duck. A puppy.
I can see a couple ones I missed in the beak.
Oh, highlighter erasers. Eraser highlights. There you
Yeah.
go. Because those feathers are shiny.
If you have a sharp eraser or a detail eraser, they sell, eraser sticks that are good for this. You can get little details. I have an electric eraser even. Yeah, sometimes when you're doing a few tiny little white highlights throughout your drawing can really make it something look a little wet and more real. Sometimes it's all it takes, or it has a far more dramatic effect than you would think it would, just putting a few little white specks and making, or the effect of making your drawing look real. Or maybe believable is a better word because it's not real, but you always want your drawings to be believable, credible.
I like it.
I don't think we have time to get into hatching and cross hatching, but
I mean,
it's a
if you
pretty
want
good duck, if I say so myself. Even though it's different than I can see, it's different than the picture.
still a
It's
duck.
not exactly like I could have. Shape the beak a bit. It's still a very wide beak.
Because he's got to eat pond grass and stuff and algae. I don't know. If you want to talk about hatching, like briefly, you have time.
Okay, so we've been using I've been using a big chunky pencil because I think that's the easiest way to show shading. But you can make a drawing with nothing but lines to show shading. So say you have a sphere, light's coming in this direction. What would you call this? This is like definitely a form of impressionism because lines don't exist in real life. But when it comes to drawing, a whole bunch of lines can stand in for a shadow. So if you have a whole bunch of single lines, that's called hatching. But then if you want more shadow, you can put in a whole bunch of lines going in a crisscross pattern in the opposite direction, kind of like steaks on a grill. And that's called cross hatching.
Whoa.
You don't have to stop at two directions. You can put them in another direction, and it creates even more variation. And you can fill up whole notebooks just cross-hatched globes. Most comic book art is done in a cross-hatchy style ever since Jim Lee popularized it in the 90s.
What did Jim Lee draw?
X-Men, mostly.
The X-Men that we know and love. Thanks, Jim Lee.
All right, how's everybody doing on the duck drawing? You see them finishing up? Do you see this stuff?
Yeah, as we're coming to the end, you guys can show us the ducks. I love ducks in real life and also drawing.
Alexa, stop. Alexa, stop.
Sorry if Joe just turned off any of your Alexas by accident.
Daily reminder to take your vitamins.
Oh man.
Everybody should do it.
Dawn, looking good. What, have an Alexa or take their vitamins?
Everybody should take their vitamins.
Noted. Nice job, Will. Looking awesome. I think we had a really talented group here tonight. Sam, excellent duck. Hershey, also excellent duck. Joe Ruff, these are great, excellent ducks. I'll have to send you the recording so you can see the excellent ducks.
Okay.
Duck excellence here tonight. It's very exciting. Very good. Yeah, so stuck to this leather chair. Yeah, that. Is there anything else you want to closing remarks? Any questions, comments, concerns? Anybody?
I could have drawn that plant.
What?
I said I could have drawn that plant.
I like the duck.
I just wanted to prove to the world that I could do it.
We can save that for
one great thing about digital art is you can realize, oh no, I drew, if you're trying to get it right size, I drew that way too big. So you can just go in and shrink it. You have to do so much more planning when you're drawing something in real life.
That makes sense. But yeah, so
anyway, you should learn how to draw on with real people anyway, because you have to learn how to plan. And some grassy grass.
I like this duck. I like everybody's ducks. I think everybody did an excellent job tonight.
I changed my mind about the grass. Yeah, I look forward to seeing everybody's drawings. I really do. I'll have Nicole show me the picture, and I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you learned a couple things, and I hope you had fun.
I hope you all had fun. If you want to keep the vibe going, again, Bob Ross, YouTube. The entire show is on YouTube. It's great. The quality is not super great because they filmed it on film in the 70s, but they did their best.
Not film on videotape.
Yeah. All right. Alrighty, guys. Well, thank you for coming. You guys are excellent. Your drawings are super impressive. I'm so happy you all came. Look for more of these programs through the library. If you haven't signed up for summer reading, we have our teen summer reading program. We have the adult summer reading program that also launched. Teens is for 13 to, I guess, 17, 18 if you're still in school at 18. Adults is for 18 and up, and we have some really cool prizes coming up. Keep an eye out. We'll probably try and do some more art classes over the summer. Not quite done with scheduling just yet. I know there's the New Jersey Folktales program that's coming up. That one's pretty cool. Definitely sign up for that. There's going to be crafting boxes for anybody with kids. The kids summer reading program, that's going to come up at some point. We're still just ironing out the fine-tuning details on that one because it's a pretty big program. It's very complicated. So yeah, just check out our website, and thanks for coming, Joe Ruff. Thank you again.
Thank you for having me.
All right, everybody. Have a great night. Stay safe. We're doing curbside pickup too, in case anybody didn't know. But yeah, thanks for coming, guys. Keep an eye out.